So we started with sliding window. We came to RCNN. I'm sorry for that. We are running late of time. That's why I take some fast jumps. But you guys can read about it. Sliding window we have seen. Then sliding window has some disadvantage. It was taking too many regions of an image into consideration, and we don't want that. We jump to selective search algorithm, which was used in RCNNs. And even though it was using selective search, it was taking 50 seconds per image. And then we had the advancement in fast and fast CNNs that you have seen, and those reduced the computation, and that's how we got to 2 seconds and 0.2 seconds for fast and faster CNN respectively. So whole study lies behind reducing the computational time. And that's why in 2015 came an architecture which is known as YOLO, and it got famous. So if you are someone who want to work into CV2, who want to work into computer vision industry, who want to work into this object detection algorithm, you can't skip YOLO algorithm. You will have to deal this thing. This is something your fast RCN can't even achieve closer to it. Why I see like that is, okay, this is a map of it. Okay, will there be any practical demo today? I guess we'll not be having. We have too much slides left today. That's why practically we can't have it today. Okay, let's focus on current slides. Okay, just look at this outcomes. You have a RCNN. This is not a comma. This is a point 0.02. So it used to process 0.02 frames per second. And the value increased as the advancement increased. You came to faster RCNN, 7 things per seconds. Then okay, you have some variation inside of it. You have seen, right? Faster RCNN used a convolution neural network inside of it. You can change it. You can have AlexNet, you can have VGG16. Accordingly, your time will change. But something like this 7 is achievable. So you can have 7 frames per second. Now you don't want this, right? You have seen your cell phones, right? 30 frames per second. How will this thing work there? Okay, so then came YOLO V1. Now YOLO V1 gave you 45 frames per second. And now came the second version as well. It gave you 91 frames per second. Now look at this graph, dude. Right? It's amazing how this thing has improved. But if you see, there is something known as accuracy. If you are not aware of how this accuracy are measured, we are going to see this thing at the end of the slides. But for now, just look at it. The accuracy went on decreasing, right? It was somewhere 73.2 for faster, and it reduced to 63.4, right? And this is a trade-off. This is what we are worried about in current computer vision field. People are developing algorithms which are able to process with higher frames per second, but the accuracy is less. When the accuracy is more, the frames per second is less. And this is where the trade-off is. So you can manage with any algorithm which can give you a good amount of frames per second. Now you have seen in your cell phone itself 30 frames per second. So you can use YOLO algorithms. You can see they have any count above 30 only, right? 45, 91, 81, 67, 59, 40. So these are good frames per second which you can use. Okay, so this is one of the big, I can say, status of an algorithm which you will decide on for your application. If it is a real-time application, you will have to go for YOLO algorithms. There is some other algorithms also, RetinaNet and all. You can go and check out their frames per second as well. But for now, just focus on YOLO. You can go for YOLO. Okay. And talking about faster and fast RCNNs, they have a huge accuracy. So if you have some task which doesn't require a real-time identification or detection, you can go for these algorithms. They will do detection, though they will be slow, but their accuracy will be more. Okay, let's go for YOLO algorithm. So guys, I have taken the slides from Code Basic YouTube channel. So you might be knowing about this person. If you know about, just comment down in the comment section. I want to know who all you know about this person. He's a famous YouTuber for data science YouTube channel. Let me see who all know about him. Can you name him? Come on, we want to be interactive. Okay, you might not be able to recall his name, but he's very famous. I took some snaps from his channel, his own PPT. So you can go through his channel as well, and you can study there. For now, let me take you quickly through the YOLO algorithm, how it works. So how will you train your YOLO algorithm? How it is trained? So let's say you have a dog here, and what will be your training vector? So we have seen at the end, you have a softmax layer. There you have a log function for training, and okay, channel name, his channel name is Code Basics. Okay. Okay, so I will drop the links as well for this channels, whatever I have preferred. Now I'm also studying. I'm also through my learning phase. So yeah, I will drop the okay link as well. Okay, let's concentrate here. Let's say how will you create your vectors for training your this YOLO architecture? How is it trained? So it is something like you have something first, which first attribute which tells you whether there is an object inside your image or not. So yeah, there is an object. So PC will be one. You have BX, BY, BW, BH, BW, and BH. So what are this? These are coordinates, guys. So BX and BYs are the central coordinates. You can see a yellow dot here, and you can have those coordinates here, BX and BY. After that, you have to tell the width and height. Okay, width and height that you have here, and you have to tell which class it belongs to. Already we have told that there is some object inside of it, but which class it will belong to? It can be a dog, it can be a person. So for in this scenario, it's a dog. So in front of C1, which is the class of a dog, we have 1. Similarly, if you have a person here, you can have this PC as 1. Yeah, there is some object inside my image. Then you have the bounding boxes coordinates. Then we have to tell which kind of class does it belong to. It belongs to C2, right? C2 is a person class. Let's say if there is nothing in the image, how will you create your vector? It will be like 0, that there is nothing in the image, and all other things are not of any interest for us. It can be anything. So this is how your vectors will be your vectors you have to generate, and you have to train your YOLO algorithm on. And basically what it will do is, next time, so this is how you will train it, and next time whenever you will feed an image into it, it will tell you whether there is an object inside that image, what are the coordinates of that object inside that image, and which class is it. Is it a human or is it a dog? And if the PC is 0, you can interpret that there is nothing in the image. I hope you guys got this thing. It is very simple. Next thing is, okay, you can see this example. You have a dog and you have a convolutional neural network which was trained accordingly, and then it outputs you 1. That means there is something in the image. It tells you what are the coordinates for bounding boxes, and it tells you which kind of object is it. Is it a dog? Yeah, it is a dog. And then you can have a bounding box across it. So it's not like it will draw the bounding box across it. Okay, someone is saying chain is also a element. Let's mute your microphones. Who is it? Okay, leave it. Okay, so what do we have? We have an architecture feeding an image. It will tell us what are the coordinates, and it will tell us whether there is an object and which object is it. So isn't it far better than the previous architectures? We have in the previous architecture, we used to have an SVM classifier for classifying which object is it, right? We used to have a bounding box regressor to tell us which where is the bounding box, right? And then we have a CNN to extract out the features itself. But now in this architecture, there is one single architecture which is doing all the tasks together. So you don't have to change this. You don't have to go through all the other things like bounding box regressor, then your SVM classifier, then you have the starting with the CNN, which will extract out the features. So this is good, right? One time you can do. So this is what it is said as. And one more thing is, in case of CNNs and all, you used to have that region proposals, right? And you will pass that region proposal again and again to your CNN, your classifiers, and they will classify it. But in this case, you don't have to pass different portion of your images. You just have to pass a single image And looking at the single image, it will tell you whether there are multiple objects, whether there is a single object itself, right? So that's why it's named as you only look once. Your architecture will look the image only once. You do not have to see the portion of your images, just like the way RCNS does. And that's why it is computationally like time, it doesn't consume that much time, what the RCNN family consumes. Okay, so let's say there are, how do you label these things, right? How do you have this vectors? So what you have to do is you have to divide your whole image into grids. Now these grids, whatever given here are 4x4. You can have multiple grids here. Okay, you can have 16x16 as well. It's your choice, 9x9 as well. And for each grid, you have to create this kind of vector. Now in this image, we don't have anything, right? Not of our interest. So it will be 0. PC is equal to 0. Similarly, for all other boxes, it will be 0. Even for this box as well. We want to find out the box which will be having the center of our object. For this box as well, this will be the same thing. But for this box, in this box, we have a center of our dog. So what will the vector corresponding to this dog look like is, you have 1 here, which is telling you that, yeah, there is some probability of having an object. And which object is it? It is a dog. Then what are the coordinates? These are the coordinates. It will tell what are the middle coordinates. It is 0.05. It is 0.3. What is the width and what is the height? That also it tells. And each of the bounding box, each of the grid box will be having the coordinate system like 0x0 and 1x1, 0, 0 and 1, 1. Similarly, for this woman, we'll be having something like 1 in this bounding in this grid cell. Okay, not in other grid cells, because the center of this woman is in this grid cell. Then you go to it, you get 1 in PC. That means there is some object. You get the coordinates for your center point, and around the center point you can have your width and height, and that's how you get your bounding box. And you can label it by this other attributes like PC, which class it belongs to. For this, the second C2 is 1. That means it's a human. Okay, so this is what it is. And for this each grid cell, you will be having how much? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 things for one grid cell. So it will be looking something like this. So you will be having 4x4 as dimension, and you will be having, just imagine it is having 7 channels inside of it. Okay, for each grid, it will look something like this. So you have to train it on this kind of data. Okay, so now comes this thing. Similarly, for this image, you will fit and you will train it on this kind of vectors. And for this image also, so you can see for all the images, you have to create this kind of stacks, and you have to train your convolution neural network. And if you are you want to study more about it, what kind of architecture is used inside it, so note down DarkNet. DarkNet is the architecture that YOLO algorithm use. They have their own website as well. I will leave the link for it. It's very much interesting. Go through it, what type of architecture they use. And yeah, let's proceed further. Okay, so this is how it will work. You will provide an input image to it. According to the grid cells, it will tell you where the image is, where the target object is. You can draw a bounding box across it. Okay, now the thing is, what happens is your algorithm will not give you that much accuracy. It might predict multiple bounding boxes around your image. So in this image, you can see a woman is having multiple bounding box around it with confidences like 0.9, 0.7, 0.65. And for dog as well, it has predicted 2 different bounding boxes. Now the thing is, you don't want this thing, right? You want only one bounding box. Why to have multiple bounding box? This doesn't look good. What can you do? Let's take the first situation. You might think, let's take the highest confidence bound, the box which is having the highest confidence throughout the image. In that scenario, you will be losing out your dog, because dog is having the confidence of at max 0.8 and the human is having the confidence of at max 0.9. So you don't want that, right? What will you do? So let's say the second scenario, you will segregate out the bounding boxes of humans separately and animals separately. And you will say that in humans, I will find out the bounding box which is having higher confidence. So let's say this one, you can say in this example, this bounding boxes, there are multiple bounding boxes. You will say, I will keep the 0.9 itself. But that will also not work. Let's say there are multiple humans inside that image. What will you do? Multiple, if you classify all the bounding boxes as humans and cats or dogs, and in human class, you will take only the maximum confidence bounding box. You will be missing out the bounding box for the human which was having less confidence, but though it was a human, right? You don't want that thing happen. So in that scenario, something known as IOU will come into picture, intersection or union. What you will do is, you will find out the bounding boxes which are having higher IOU. So what is higher IOU? So what you will do is, you will find out the area of intersection of two bounding boxes. Let's consider this white bounding box, and you will go through all the boxes in your list, what your algorithm has predicted, and check out for this metric. For that, you will find out the intersection of those both bounding boxes and divided by the union of both bounding boxes. So this intersection of over union will be more. In case it is more, that means they are pretty much the same kind of thing. And what you can do is, you can just remove one with lower confidence. You can see, if you see this bounding box of a dog, and if you see the bounding box of, let's say, human, they are having pretty much less area of intersection, and that's why their intersection or union, this formula will bear out less value. And you can set that threshold yourself as well. Like if it crosses this much threshold, that means these are providing to the same class, same object, and you can remove them. So for this, it is lower, right? If you consider it 65%, it is lower than 65% for this intersection. So you will not remove this box. You will just get the set of these boxes which are having the intersection of closely 65%, and you will take only the bounding box which is having higher confidence. In this scenario as well, if you have another human in the image, you will not be having that. Let's say that human might be here, so you will not be having that bounding box intersection more with this bounding box intersection, right? And that's why you will not be removing that bounding box. You will be just taking consideration of this bounding box in case you are predicting for this object, and will be removing that. So that is the importance of intersection or union, to find out which is the bounding box you should keep out of all the bounding box that your algorithm has told you. Okay, and that was known as non-max separation. Okay, you didn't went for only max separation. You didn't do like, let's take the maximum confidence bounding box. You look at the IOU, you look at which bounding box are having higher intersection, whichever was having a higher intersection, and among them, if whichever was having the higher confidence, you just took that bounding box. And this is how you got clear with it. 0.9 for human and 0.8 for dog. We didn't miss the dog here, right? Now there might be a situation where you might have multiple objects inside the same same grid. What you can do is, you can have the concept of anchor box in that scenario. Earlier you used to have this count as 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, right? Now you can do is, you can extend this vector to 14. What you can do is, half of the portion for dog, half of the portion for the person. You can see the first anchor box. You can see there is an image, there is some object. You can have a bounding box coordinates, and inside that, for whom it is for a dog. For second portion, you can see there is an object. You have a bounding box. For whom it is for a person. You can attach them together. You can create a big one. So in this case, you can have multiple detection of multiple objects inside a same grid. And you will have to create this kind of anchor box, this kind of whole vector for each and every grid. If they are not there, just keep it 0. Just keep it PC is equal to 0. But if in a grid, if both the objects are coming together, then you have to create this kind of anchor box. Both the anchor boxes coming together to create a bigger one. And then if you have such kind of image, you can pass it and it will give you 16 kind of this thing, right? Okay, let's just move and let's just see what is the power of YOLO. Okay, on Coco dataset, you can see YOLO v3 version 3. You can see the frames per second, right? Look at it. So MAP is there. Map, we're gonna study it quickly. But first of all, look at FPS. Look at the FPS they are touching. They are touching 45, and some one more algorithm is there, that is YOLO v3 tiny. So there are versions to it. Okay, it's not like YOLO version 3 is individual. There are versions to it. So look at the frame rate they are achieving. I don't think so anyone else is close to enough, right? Your YOLO version 3 tiny is achieving nearly 220 frames per second. So this is a website for it. I have given you the link for it. You can go through these websites. This is the official website for this darknet/YOLO. Go there, and if you want to try out this experimentally, you have the link for the weights as well. You can download and you can configure and you can run these algorithms yourself. And if you want to read some good Google Colab notebook on that, so that also I have given the link for. There they have shown you how to use YOLO version 5 yourself. Let's move. So yeah, YOLO didn't stop there, guys. YOLO came up with recently with the version 5, and just look at the frames per second they are touching. 455 frames per second. On what is this, right? 345 frames per second. Right? You have versions into it. Small, medium, large, whatever you can say. And you have some meanings for this as well. Average precision. We will look to it. But I want you guys to get a feel of it. What we started with used to take like 50 seconds with RCNN. Now where are we? We are like 45 frames per second. And in YOLO family version 3 were giving us nearly like 45, 35, 20. Now it's like a huge jump. Then like after YOLO version 3, there came YOLO 4 as well. Then came YOLO 5 as well. And the thing they are behind is increasing the frame rate as well as reducing the error rate and increasing this mean precision average, this thing, MAP, this AP, we'll get to know in further slides. We'll quickly go through them as well. And look at the parameter count they are taking. So you can see 87 million parameters for this YOLO version 5. But yeah, which is giving us good accuracy. And frames per second is 40. I guess this is good with us, right? We have 30 frames per second, what we have seen in our cell phones. Yeah, but there might be some applications there we have multiple, like the frames per second might be more. So there, this kind of algorithms like YOLO version v5, these are like top-notch architectures. It can be useful. Go and study about this thing, guys. I've given you the link about it, Google Colab link. You can study how to implement YOLO version 5 yourself. Okay, so brief study about it. When does the YOLO version 1 came? It came 2016. And Joseph Redman, you should know about this man. So we read about Girshekro. So he was the one who gave us RCNN family. Now look at this person. He is into YOLO algorithm as well. So this person was into mass RCNN as well. This person is into YOLO algorithm as well. So he has a huge contribution, guys. And this is the Joseph Redman. So he's also a big personality in this object detection area. Do read about him. He's a very talented person. If you go to his TEDx talks, you will get to know what kind of thing you imagine for us for object detection technologies to go. He has 2 tech talks on it. So go for it, search for it, Joseph Redman talk on object detection. So 2016, we got our first YOLO. 2017, we got our second YOLO, which was giving us a tagline, better, faster, stronger. Again, who was inside of it? It was Joseph Redman and Ali Farhadi. But what happened in YOLO v3 was Joseph Redman stopped working for it. Actually, if you go through his TEDx talk, he's worried about misuse of his detection technologies in army, in wars. And he was very much affected with it. And he thought like he should not keep going with this work, and he stopped using it, studying it or improving it. So on TEDx talk, you should go and you should see. He will he tells how army and countries are making this misuse of his algorithm for mass destruction, and that's why he took his legs back and he stopped working on YOLO versions. But after that, this person Alexei, he forged his directory and he kept his work continuing. And we got YOLO version 4 in 2020. So this is a recent, okay? It's very much recent. YOLO version 4 also came into market like 2020, 1 year back. Okay, and in now 2021, you have YOLO version 5 as well. And not just YOLO version 5, you have various versions to it.